So today we're going to look at how to use a ruler. So we use rulers to measure and draw lengths. Okay, so rulers look like they do here. Typically they have metric on one side, which is on our top side here, and bottom side is imperial. Not always, but it is kind of something you'll see pretty standard. So how do we draw? Well, we want to draw 4 centimeters long line. So we want to count our centimeters. So we start at 0. So we're at 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters, and stop right at 4 centimeters. So notice at the beginning it starts at a 0 point. Make sure you start at the 0 and not the beginning of the ruler. So here we're going to draw a line 6.7 centimeters long. So same thing, starting at our 0 point, put our pen down, start drawing over. When we get to 6, we know it's not quite 7, but 6.7, so 6.5 is that big mark here, and then we want to go 1, 2 millimeters past, right? So that's just 2 ticks past. Typically when you write lines as well, I didn't do it in the first one, but you'd want to give it a little bit of a label. That way you don't forget, and you can kind of tell the person, whoever's reading your work, or even yourself in the future, what you were actually doing. Because sometimes, even tomorrow, you can come back at work and be like, I don't know what this line is. Now I have to remeasure it. But if you put a little measurement on it while you're going through, then you can be like, oh, right, this was that line. Chances are in the world you're going to measure something and not have a question. You're just going to be using a ruler. So draw two lines of varying length and then accurately measure them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to I have my little ruler tool here, or line tool. I'm just going to draw a couple just for my own benefit. So now I want to accurately measure them. So I'm going to show you 2 different ways. So the first way is we start at 0, right? And you can look, we can go up to here and we can see, well, it's not quite 9, so it's going to be 8 point, and then I'm going to count back 1, 2 ticks, and I'm going to say that that is 8.8. So 8.8 and centimeters, right? Now with the bottom one, I'm going to do a little different of a technique. So say if your your ruler might be snapped at the beginning, or you don't think it's very accurate, or your numbers are rubbed off, right? But they start at 2, you can always line up at here at 2, and then notice this one goes up to, well, it says 7.6, right? But we want to take off that initial 2, so we can write that as simply 5.6, right? So notice I'm just checking it from this section to here, and that's 5.6 of a difference, right? So let's just check, because our ruler actually does work. See if that's right. Oh yeah, look at that. That's 5.6. So just give you kind of why we might actually not measure from the start. A lot of in construction they use it a lot because the very bit at your start of your tape measure can have a variance to it. That's meant for measuring, but only certain things. Anyways, those are the few examples. So here at this point in the lesson, here's 4 questions. So pause the video now, and when you're ready, press play, and we'll go through the answers. Okay, so we're going to go through the answers. So grab out your ruler, and this will be different. So you'll actually have to go along and measure your own answers with you. So 4 centimeters long. So, right, we've already done this. So 4 centimeters long, and stop. And then just keep bringing your ruler down to do them all. So this one is 7.4 centimeters. I'm going to make my line a little less thick. That way it can be more accurate when I'm drawing, right? Because the better accuracy we can draw with, the better our results will be if we ever have to use it in the future. I'm going to draw this one on a little bit of a slant, just because it doesn't matter, it doesn't specify. So it's 2.5 inches long. Well, look at that, right? I'm not trying to change mine around. So it says 2.5 inches. So make sure you're always looking at the units when you're measuring, when you're doing your math. So 2 and 0.5, right? So the only thing we actually haven't done now is gone back and labeled our lines, which, like I said, it's just beneficial. So let's just go 4 centimeters. Let's go 7.4 centimeters. And lastly, 2.5 and IN. So now we want to draw 3 lines of varying lengths and accurately measure them. So this will differ for everybody. So it's just however you feel, right? I'm just going to draw a couple haphazardly. It doesn't matter too much. But I am going to draw them on a little bit of slants. That way we can, yeah, learn how to measure stuff on angles, right? So just when you're measuring stuff on a slant, just making sure you line it up as best as possible. You might be a little bit off, but you'll still get it within your degree of accuracy, your limit of accuracy. So here we can look up. We're at just over 4. We're not quite at 4.5. We're not at the one before, so it's not 4.4. Well, it's 4.3 then, right? So you can always count back from something that is bigger. That's typically what I do. You don't have to start at the 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. So here, same thing. Gonna try and match up our line as best as possible. And then this one, I'm gonna start it from 1. We'll measure up till what looks like it could be. Hard to tell. It looks like it could be 5.4. So 5.4, but remember we started at 1, so we're gonna just label it as 4.4. And last one for me. Here we can look, and we're above 5.5. So I'm gonna actually say 5.7 because it's almost touching the 7 part. Sometimes you'll have to make that distinction, and that's why you heard me say that limits of accuracy. That is something that we're going to deal with, where we can find, well, how much is acceptable? How much of a kind of what's our fault and what's the fault in the device, or how we're implying it. So at this point, we'll see you in the next video where we start to go on how to measure with a protractor.